He has carried out several sponsored research projects and organized faculty development programs and seminars funded by AICTE, VTU, and VGST. Currently, he is working as BOS Chairman of Electronic and Instrumentation Board, VTU, Belgavi. I welcome you, sir, once again for today's session.
Thank you, Santosh, for
Yes, sir.
introducing me to the other participant.
Thank you, sir.
Being the head of the Institute of University BED College of Engineering, uh, first of all, I hearty welcome to all the participants of this 5 days faculty development program on bioinformatics for engineers and medicals. On this occasion, on behalf of the institute and on behalf of organizing committee, coordinators, and personally, I congratulate all the participants who have been there in this FDP, and also congratulate the coordinators of this program, Dr. Harish and Dr. Santosh Kumar, and the whole organizing committee of MCA department of our institute. So, first session, as I understand, it was on bioinformatics by Professor Santosh Kumar. Now I am be dealing with another interesting area of engineering, that is biomedical engineering. So here in this presentation, I'll be discussing about what is biomedical engineering and what are the changes which are happening, that is advances which are taking place, and for being an engineers and medical fraternity, what challenges we have in front of us and the opportunities to explore the new ideas and the concepts. So those are the points which I'm going to discuss in my presentation. We'll move on to the next slide. Just I'll be showing some of the diagrams or the images. Some of them which you are familiar. So this is a glass thermometer for measurement of the body temperature. Now you can see an improved version of the thermometer, that is a digital thermometer. Then we have a stethoscope, body weighing machine. Then we have a sphygmomanometer, so measurement of blood pressure. Then you can see a diagram which is related to the recording of ECG, then ECG machine. Then further advancement which are happening, okay, a wristband type of BP measurement, pulse measurement, body temperature measurement. Then nowadays most of you may be popular about this, that is pulse oximeter. So because nowadays those who wanted to be home quarantine, okay, so at that time you need to have a pulse oximeter in your house to find out the oxygen saturation in the blood. And then we have a glucometer, handheld digitized glucometer. Okay, so then we have a patient monitoring system, an advanced ICU unit with a lot of biomedical instruments, eye testing instruments. Then we have X-ray, that's what we call the radiography machines. Then we have the CT machines. Then MRI, ultrasound machines. So then some of the prosthetic and orthotic devices, that artificial hand, artificial leg. Then now we are also, the biomedical field is also entering with lot of the inputs related to the IoT technology, artificial intelligence and machine learning. So by looking into these photographs or the pictures, one can understand that there is a lot of the innovations, inventions, advances are happening in the field of the biomedical instrumentation or biomedical engineering. So where we provide as an engineers, we provide a lot of instruments for the medical field, for the physicians, for the doctors, which they use for the better diagnostic and therapeutic procedures. So in this way, the lot of advances are happening in the field of biomedical engineering day to day. And at the same time, there are a lot of challenges are also there to make this field of engineering and technology and very well supportive to the medical field. So because nowadays, if you see that in the current COVID situation, the lot of the patients are suffering due to the lack of availability of ventilators. Why we are not able to provide the required number of ventilators for the needed patients? Like that, there are several challenges. Okay, so with that input, okay, where are the opportunities still exist for us so that we can able to explore those particular the areas and try to find the solutions for the problems through the engineering concept, which may be helpful for the field of medicine to provide better healthcare. With this background, we move next. So whenever you talk about the biomedical engineering, so it becomes necessary to understand certain medical terminologies by which our understanding in the field of biomedical engineering becomes very good. So these are the three terminologies which generally we use: diagnosis, pathology, and therapy. You might have heard. Then what is the diagnosis? It is a systematic, a standard procedure which can be adopted to find the disease present in a subject or a patient. Okay, means a scientific procedure has to be adopted to detect a disease or illness in a subject or a patient. That process is going to call the diagnosis. Second one is called the pathology. Once you understood that a subject or a patient is suffering from so and so disease, then you need to find out what is the root cause of that disease. Why that particular disease is happened, then what are the way it may progress, all those things you need to be studied. So in the current situation itself, particularly in the COVID pandemic, you will find that there are a lot of difficulties in coming to the proper diagnostic report, because the unless until we study pathologically, means if you take a swab, okay, blood report, based upon that only we can able to conclude whether there is any infection or not. So the finding the root cause of the disease is the pathology. And now we know what is the disease, then we know what is the root cause of the disease. Then third one is the therapy, treatment. So the appropriate way by which we can able to overcome that particular disease, the procedure which are going to be adopted is going to be the therapeutic procedures. When you look the field of biomedical engineering, either will be developing tools, techniques, instruments, or procedures related to the diagnosis, or related to pathology, or related to therapy. So we may call diagnostic instruments which are used for diagnostic purpose. We call pathological instrument or clinical instrument or laboratory instruments which are used for finding the root cause of the disease, particularly most of them which happens in the laboratories Either it may be a swab test, it may be a blood test, or it may be urine test. Okay, many other tests by which one can able to conclude. So what kind of the what is the root cause? What kind of virus? What kind of bacteria because of which the patient is suffering? And then therapeutic instruments, the instruments which are used for treatment purpose. Okay, so with this, in a field of biomedical engineering, we'll be developing either diagnostic related, pathological related, or therapeutic related tools, techniques, procedures, and instruments. Okay, so next comes the invasive and non-invasive. What do you mean by the invasive? Suppose if you carry out a procedure by cutting the skin or damaging the skin of the subject or the patient. At that time, those procedures, those measurements are going to be called the invasive procedures. Second is called the non-invasive. If you do some measurements or if you carry out some procedures, either for diagnostic related or related to therapeutic related, without invading the skin, without cutting the skin, without damaging the tissue, at that time it becomes non-invasive. Right? So, and next one is called the in vitro and in vivo. Suppose if you make the measurement, so not at the site of the tissue or the organ or the body part, if you carry out somewhere else and make the measurement or do the procedure, that's called in vitro, away from the point. Next is called the in vivo. So at the site, at the point of measurement, at that particular tissue, at that particular organ, if you do measurement, that's called the in vivo. For example, to understand in vitro, so you know that in vitro fertilization. Okay, what happens? So we do a procedure outside the body from the sperm and from the egg. So we fertilize. So that particular happens outside. Under normal procedure, it's supposed to happen within human body, within the woman. But we carry out, due to the one or the other reason, the woman is not able to conceive. At that time, the same procedure can be carried out outside the human body. Then the fertilized egg will be inserted into the uterus for the further development. So that is in vitro procedures. Okay, so like that, so the procedures will be invasive and non-invasive, and certain procedures will be in vitro and in vivo. So generally, challenge now as my the presentation goes on, so I will be discussing what are the challenges are there for engineers and medicos here. So generally, suppose a person goes to the doctor for some kind of illness, and the doctor makes a checkup and diagnose that you are suffering from so and so, and you need to be given an injection. Okay, at that time what happens? So you are going to penetrate a small needle into human body. Okay, at that time it becomes an invasive, right? So at that time generally what we say that is it not possible to just by oral medications? Okay, a patient will ask, even though if this needle is very thin, very small, okay, which is in terms of micron, we some a certain extent the patient feel uncomfortable. Okay, at that time what happens? So he just request, this can be overcome by non-invasively. So what we are looking in the field of biomedical engineering, we try to develop the tools and techniques which are more often or the more and more non-invasive or minimally invasive. Okay, so such procedures we are looking nowadays, right? So that is the one of the challenges we have. Next, coming to the biomedical engineering. So what is biomedical engineering altogether? Okay, so if you look at this particular the photograph, it is just a human body with lot of replacements. So we have a prosthetic arm, we have prosthetic leg, then we have a pacemaker, we have an artificial implant here, right? So what it means? a human body can be effectively replaced with artificial organs and artificial materials. Okay, so such an extent the engineering and technology has developed, right? So the science, engineering, and technology which supports the medical field in providing appropriate tools and techniques and the instruments and the materials by which a condition of abnormality in a person can be overcome, or a condition of disability can be overcome with the lot of engineering support. So that can be achieved in the field of biomedical engineering. But when you look here, this particular diagram, so it is not that only if I design a gadget using an electronics or instrument, it is not possible. We require a good biomaterial. We require a good mechanical design or civil engineering design. Okay, so by using all these things only, we can able to develop the appropriate prosthetic, orthotic, the replacements for the human body. So in that way, so and also when you put certain gadgets, certain instruments for the measurement of the vital parameters in the human body, at that time those need to be programmed to acquire the data, to store the data, right? At that time we require support of the information technology also. In this way, so it is like an interdisciplinary, multidisciplinary nature. Okay, so the biomedical engineering is a multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary field where the fields of engineering and technology people. Okay, it may be from electronics, it may be from instrumentation, it may be from biomedical engineering, it from the computer science. All can come together and provide and integrate themselves and discuss themselves to come out with the procedure and solutions for better healthcare. That is the one. Then what we do in biomedical engineering? We develop here, we do application of the principle of engineering. So the whatever the principles, the fundamental principle of engineering, we apply for the field of the medical. Okay, that is the one of the major objective. Okay, so we have a lot of fundamental principles in science, engineering, and technology. Those applications are utilized here and applied to design the instruments or the procedures or tools and techniques. That is what biomedical engineering. Then what is, by doing this, by implementing the multidisciplinary or interdisciplinary concept and by applying principle of engineering, what we can do? So to solve problems in biology and medicine, there will be several complications which are related to the human body. Okay, so whenever when the person is normal, absolutely there will not be an issue. When the person becomes ill, at that time there are a lot of complexity, a lot of problems a patient is going to face. At that time, to solve those particular problems, we require biomedical engineering, which is going to support biology and medicine. Next one is to design and develop instruments and techniques. Here, another important, the objective of biomedical engineering is to develop instruments and technology also. For example, suppose I wanted to find out how my heart is working, how my heart muscles are contracting. At that time, what happens? You may require an ECG machine. So by which only I can able to find out the functioning of the heart. So at that time, we develop an instrument. Right, then development of the technology. So an angiography procedure is a development of the technology to find the blockages in the heart. Right, so in biomedical engineering, it is not only that just we develop instruments, we develop tools and techniques which will be supportive for many of the medical procedures. Okay, and ultimately what purpose? For better healthcare and enhance quality of human life. Okay, so that is the major objective. Ultimately, by doing all these things, so what we wanted to do, we wanted to provide a better healthcare facility and enhance the quality of human life. That is very important. So it is not the quantity. So quantity of the human life means how many years you are going to survive. That becomes quantity of human life. So whether you are going to survive for 60 years, 70 years, 80 years, Okay, but when it comes to the biomedical engineering, how well you have survived for those many years. So whether your health was good during those particular the period of survival, that is what you call as the quality. Okay, so we try to enhance the quality of human life with best support through engineering and technology, through the field of medicine. Okay, so that is what the all together about the biomedical engineering. Okay, so just as I said, engineering application. So one of the engineering applications, simply I'll explain here how simple these concepts are. Okay. So one of the engineering applications which we can able to understand in a simple way is the use of stethoscope and sphygmomanometer for the measurement of the blood pressure. So most of us might have undergone the blood pressure measurement. What they do generally, they put a cuff, then they'll put some pressure into your the upper arm, then they'll put a stethoscope, they listen to the sound, then they record the blood pressure. That is, we call the systolic by diastolic pressure. For normal blood pressure is generally we call the average young adult human blood pressure is something around 120 by 80. 120 being systolic and 80 being diastolic pressure. Right. So for to listen to this, when they record the blood pressure, when there is some sound is recorded through the stethoscope. So then how the sound is recorded through the stethoscope? What will be there in the stethoscope? So that is very important. So what is the concept is applied here is that if I just give a simple example, if you take a paper, a piece of paper and just vibrate it, what happens? It makes a noise. A simple paper, just if you vibrate, it makes a noise, right? It generates some sound signal. So a same concept is employed in the stethoscope. In the stethoscope head, okay, so there will be diaphragm. What is a diaphragm? It is a thin metallic sheet which is in terms of micron level thickness. So what happens when you keep this stethoscope onto the surface of the human body? The sound waves which are propagating from the vessels, they reach to the surface, and when they hit this particular the head of the stethoscope, okay, then they transfer that particular vibrations to the diaphragm, which is nothing but thin circular metal sheet, okay, which is vibrating in nature. So at that time, what happens? That vibration is generated through cannula. So through the earphones, okay, through this cannula. So the doctor is able to hear the sound signal. So when the first time when the sound appears, he records that's the pressure is systolic. When the sound disappears, the physician records that as a diastolic. Okay, so here what is the simple concept is employed? Any thin metallic sheet which is in terms of micron level thickness, when it is subjected to the force, it vibrates, generates a sound signal. That simple engineering application concept is employed in design of stethoscope. Okay. Then together with sphygmomanometer will record. Then what is the concept in the sphygmomanometer? Okay. What we do in the during the process of the blood pressure measurement? So we put a cuff and the upper arm of the generally on the upper arm. So there is called the one of the major artery which is called the brachial artery. So what we do is you might have seen that then the physician is going to increase the pressure in the cuff. How long he is going to increase the pressure in the cuff? You might have observed. So the mercury manometer, sphygmometer will be showing something around 160 or 180. Okay. So till that he will be keep on rising the pressure here. So at that time you feel this part of the arm is at high pressure. When you reach around 140 to 160 millimeters of mercury, so the blood flow from the brachial artery is going to stop. Okay, completely there is a blockage. Then what the doctor, he starts releasing the pressure. He starts releasing pressure. At one point, when the pressure in the brachial artery is more than this cuff, suddenly blood eject from that particular point and rushes into the forearm. Okay, so at that time what happens, when it is start flowing, it will generate a sound. That sounds are going to call the Korotkov sound. Okay, the instant at which the physician is going to hear that sound, that particular is related to the highest pressure, okay, with reference to the blood vessels. That is going to call the systolic pressure. Slowly what happens, that turbulence which is created to the sudden rush of the blood, slowly as it decreases the pressure, becomes laminar. Once the laminar flow starts, at the time, the sounds which are generated here is going to disappear. The point at which the sound disappears, at the time, he records the pressure as the diastolic pressure. Okay, so diastolic pressure is relates when the heart is relaxed state. So the systolic pressure is relates for the blood pressure when the heart is contracted, when the pressure in the blood vessels is high. Okay, so that is, so here what is the concept with reference to the here means, so whenever a sudden the blockage happens and the pressure is released suddenly, at the time there is a turbulence. The turbulence creates a sound. That sound measurement relates to the blood pressure. Okay, when turbulence disappears, when laminar flow occurs, at the time what happens? The sound disappears. Okay, so that will be related to the diastole. So simple engineering principles are effectively used in the medical field for the measurement of either heart sound or blood pressure. Okay, like that. So we will be applying many engineering principles, concepts. So for the developments of the two tools or instruments and techniques. Okay, so that is about the then why there is a need of biomedical engineering? Why this the field of, as you have studied, just you have gone through bioinformatics in the previous session. So where the Professor Santosh Kumar has explained what is the need of bioinformatics, what do you mean by the bioinformatics? Okay, so all those things. Similarly, this field of engineering, why there is this, there is a field of biomedical engineering is, okay, why this is needed? So the complexities of medical procedures has created need for an engineering approach. There is when a doctor wanted to go for understanding the diseases and the treatment procedure, there are a lot of complexities. So each and every patient has different kinds of symptoms and other things. So to overcome all, so the standard medical procedures has to be driven, has to be created, for which an engineering approach is required. So simply, suppose, assume that you are running high fever and your body temperature is assumed to be more. At the time, the simple approach is to use the a thermometer. Okay, so for the measurement of the body temperature. Okay, so suppose your heart rate is varying. At the time, you can use a simple stethoscope to find the heart rate or the beats. And you wanted to find out what is the oxygen level. At that time, you can go little advanced. You can use pulse oximeter to measure pulse as well as the oxygen content. Okay, so there is a lot of complexity involved in the either for diagnostic or for the treatment procedures. To overcome that, so engineering approach is very essential. So sometimes you might have understood in certain situations without the biomedical instruments, some of the situations the doctor may not able to do the appropriate diagnosis and appropriate treatment procedures. For example, a patient is undergoing a bypass surgery. So without heart-lung machine, without anesthetic machines, so it is highly impossible to carry out those procedures in the current situations. Right. So next one is difficulties in the conservative and diagnostic therapeutics. That is already I said. There are a lot of difficulties in regular procedures which you are going to adopt. To overcome those particular problems, we require the engineering approach. Then another is growth of population and elderly people. So okay, so we require a better healthcare delivery with growth of population and elderly people, particularly in India. So you can see ours is the second largest populated country in the world. Okay, and with the lot of the improvements in the healthcare, so the survival rate is also improved. Okay, we have a lot of elderly people currently in the society who are more than 60 years, 70 years, and 80 years also. Okay, when the person becomes old, so he experiences a lot of difficulties with reference to his health. At the times, it becomes necessary for the responsible citizens, responsible engineers as we to provide a better health care for the large population and as well as for the elderly people. Sometimes these elderly people may not be able to go to the hospitals for regular checkups. At that time, we need to provide healthcare facility at their point of care, means at their home itself. Nowadays, the technology developed. If you look some 15, 20 years back, a diabetic patient, a diabetic person has to go to the clinic to check his sugar level. So at that time, they used to ask you to come around 6 a.m. morning without any breakfast, without any water like that. Then again, after breakfast, you need to come. Like that, the multiple visits a person has to go. But nowadays, we have developed a handheld glucometer, which can be given to the elderly person, which are simple, very simple to operate. They can able to measure their glucose, blood glucose level, either regular basis or weekly basis or monthly basis. Okay, so that's why. So the with population with elderly people, the responsibility becomes easy to provide. So the approach, new discoveries. Whenever there is new discovery, we engineers try to utilize that discovery and apply in developing the tools and techniques. Particularly in the 19th century, when the William Röntgen discovered X-rays, so immediately, so the lot of the people started the doing many other research to utilize that particular the discovery for developing the tools and techniques and the instruments. Based upon that, the currently we have the X-ray machines or CT machines, right? Which use the one of the important component is the X-ray. Then difficulties in training, maintenance, servicing of the medical instruments. So currently, as you know, that the lot of instruments are required. Okay, in the hospitals, if you go to the any hospital, okay, whether you go to the cardiology, if you go to the neurology, if you go to the nephrology department, any department, if you take radiology department, there is a lot of instruments you will see. Okay, so but what happens? The doctor is use that particular instrument for either for diagnostic purpose or for the therapeutic purpose, for the treatment purpose. But it is not the job of the or role of the doctor to maintain that instrument. Suppose an instrument is there, some ventilator is there, assume, okay, if it is working, so well and good, he will use. Suppose a ventilator is not functional, it's not working. At that time, what doctor does immediately from the patient point of view, what he does, he simply replaces that ventilator with a standby ventilator. Because the patient life is very important. He cannot keep on servicing that at that particular instant. So at that time, to overcome this, the difficulties in maintenance of the servicing and training of the instrument, we require engineering approach. We require biomedical engineers. So the biomedical engineer does, suppose a new instrument comes to the hospital, he gives training to the doctors, technicians and nurses. Then his role is to maintain those instruments. If in the difficult situation, if the instrument is not functional, he has to do the servicing. For all these things, engineering approach is very essential. That's why most of the hospitals nowadays are going to appoint biomedical engineers in the hospitals. Their role is to train, maintain and service the medical instruments. Because of all these things, the biomedical engineering is very essential in the current situation. Okay, so that is about the need of the biomedical engineering. Then coming to the specializations of the biomedical engineering, what are the biomedical engineering has a lot of scope, lot of the opportunities to work, to do the research, to come out with better the solutions for the problems. Here it start with basic and advanced electronics and instrumentation. So the basic building blocks for the biomedical instruments is the electronics and instruments. Then we have bioinstrumentation and biosignal processing, then biomechanics and biodynamics, medical imaging, image processing. Then there is a lot of biomaterials we use for developing the artificial organs. Then there is a field called the rehabilitation engineering. We provide prosthetic, orthotic support for the disabled people. Then clinical, cellular and tissue engineering and genetic engineering. So you might have come across with genetic engineering in the previous session, particularly in the bioinformatics. Then as the bioinformatics is another field which is closely related to bioengineering, robotic surgeries, telemedicine. These are the many fields of the biomedical engineering where a lot of work is going on, a lot of research is going on, and a lot of support happens to these divisions to the field of medicine. Okay, so I'll touch upon it. Is quite difficult for me to discuss in all the fields. I have another 45 minutes to 50 minutes. It is quite difficult for me to touch each and every in depth. Okay, as much as possible for another 45 minutes, I try to cover maximum in these particular specializations. Okay, so first comes bioinstrumentation. What is this bioinstrumentation? So the measurement of biological or physiological variables or development of the instruments, tools and techniques. For what purpose? For diagnosis and treatment procedures. So what we do in bioinstrumentation? So we do measurement of the biological or physiological variables by developing instrument, tools and techniques, and that is utilized for diagnostic and treatment procedure. That is what altogether the bioinstrumentation. What basically bioinstrumentation consists? It consists a biosystem. So basically a human body is a biosystem. Then through human body, through the sensor, we acquire the measurement of the physiological parameter. It may be like blood pressure, it may be heart rate, it may be blood flow. Then we process that signal. Then we, since most of the current instruments are digital, we convert that analog signal into digital. Then it goes to a processing control unit where we do a digital signal processing. Means we process that signal for the required form. Then it goes to the user interface, either for display purpose or storage purpose or transmission purpose. In certain instrumentation, we give that data as a feedback by which certain the biofeedback system can be implemented for therapeutic purpose. Okay, so means based upon the acquired data, certain treatment procedure can be initiated in the biosystem, in the sense human body. This is a basic instrumentation system what generally we implement to acquire the physiological parameter from the human body for measurement purpose, storage purpose, transmission purpose, or for therapeutic purpose. Okay. Then one of the important requirement for the bioinstrumentation is the sensors or transducer. As far as bioinstrumentation is considered, the electrodes are going to act as the sensors or transducer. What electrode does? They convert the ionic potentials which are on there within the body onto the surface of the body into electrical potentials. Okay, so basically, so biopotentials which are there in the human body are the ionic potentials, okay, which are developed due to the movement of the ions across the semipermeable membrane of the cell. Those particular potentials has to be converted into the suitable electrical potential, either in the form of a voltage or current. To do that, we require electrodes. Okay, so you can see there are a variety of electrodes which will come across. So this is ECG electrodes, these are the EMG electrodes, these are the EAG electrodes. Okay, so we require electrodes for measurement of the biopotential. Okay, so what are the advances which are happening nowadays? If you go back to the previous slide here, so these electrodes are bigger in nature. Okay, sometimes these electrodes may be inconvenient for the subject or the patient. Okay, so what is required nowadays? We will go for miniaturization. Okay, so challenges here is to miniaturize these particular electrodes. Nowadays we call it variable electronic sensor, which are printed directly onto the skin. You can see here, this is a sensor, which is an electrode. What it contains? It contains an electrode, it contains a sensor, it will have a power, and it has a wireless communication. Through this, I can able to measure biopotential and transmit also. Right, so such an advancement are happening in the field of the biomedical engineering. Okay, but still the technology has to develop to the fuller extent, greatest extent, so this technology can be utilized by the physicians and the doctor for the day-to-day activities. Right, so that is the advances which are happening. So, and sometimes it becomes necessary to measure biopotential from a single cell. At that time, we require microelectrodes. Okay, very thin, so micron level or nano level, the thickness or diameter electrodes, which will directly go to a typical neuron and measure. So nowadays we are developing microelectrodes, which are as good as an IC chip. So in integrated circuit chip, you know that they have a very sharp, thin the needles, so which can be inserted into the human body. Such insertion of the needles will not cause any kind of damage to the tissue. Okay, so such technology is being developed. That is we call the microneedle electrons. So which is able to capture the signal from a single cell or from the small area, by which you can able to get the data very clearly from the affected area. So sometimes, as if you go back to the previous slide, you can see here the electrodes are connected to the human body, and through the wire it is connected to the machine. In this one, okay, the patient becomes alive. He cannot able to move. Okay, so at that time he should be connected to the bed, or he should be connected to the machine. At that time, to overcome these difficulties, nowadays we have wireless electrodes. Okay, so these are the electrodes you see here. These electrodes are mounted. It has a processor and a wireless transmitter which transmits signal from the body to the device. It may be mobile. Okay, so through wireless, what happens? So the subject is free to move from one point. At that time, you cannot able to restrict his movements. And under such situations, when you go wireless, during routine activities also, the data can be captured, and through wireless media, we can transmit to the hospital or the doctor's gadget. It may be a laptop, or it may be a desktop, it may be mobile. Okay, so such advances are happening in the field of biomedical. We are in an era which is called intelligent sensor platform. Okay, so where the instrument is not only intelligent enough, or when we call the intelligent sensor platform, it have sensing, it have processing, and it has capability to interface with other networks. So such the developments are happening. So such the field of that is using intelligent sensor, or also called the smart sensor. It contains a sensor, it contains a processing unit also, it has a port or a link to establish an interface to the outside network. Okay, so and based upon this smart sensor, nowadays we are developing wireless body area networks. What is this wireless body area network? So as you can see here, it's called the WBAN, wireless body area network. Here we deploy, okay, we deploy the the sensors. So biomedical sensor for measure the pressure, to measure the pulse oximeter, then the inertial sensor, EEG sensor, EMG sensor, ECG sensor. So what they do, they will be mounted on the human body, okay, and they have sensing mechanism, they have processing mechanism, they have a wireless transmitter also. What they do is they transmit the physiological signal to the nearby the device. It may be mobile or it may be laptop through wireless medium. Through this internet, again it came to the desktop, then it may be the transmitted to the hospitals, to the physician, and or for it may be the emergency recording and procedures. Okay, so here it is slowly this technology is coming nowadays. Okay, so this advancement is happening in the field of biomedical engineering. But what are the challenges here? As I said, my lecture also includes some challenges which an engineer and the medical people has to address. So when you mount this particular sensor, so what it requires, it will require it will acquire data, it will process the data and it will transmit, for which you require a battery. So the life of this implant depends upon the battery backup. So if you use the battery for lower extent, at the time the life of the battery comes larger. At the time what happens, you can able to utilize this body area network for the larger duration. If the battery life is going to minimum, at the time the frequent replacement of the sensor takes place. At the time, so unnecessary will be calling this subject for replacement of this particular sensor. Okay, so the challenge is here is to how to make the sensors smart enough to process the signal and utilize the battery for very short period of time. At the time, there is a concept for the data compression. When you do the data compression, what you can do is we can extend the life of this particular sensors. Okay, that is a challenge which is there, and one of my research scholar is working on this particular wireless body area network. Very interesting area to explore. Next, scope of biomedical engineering. Where the scope of biomedical engineering instrumentation point. One of the scope is in the measurement of bioelectric potentials. Okay, it is related to the electrocardiogram, electroencephalogram, electromyogram, electroretinogram, electrooculogram, electrogastrogram. So the recording of electrical activity of the heart is ECG. Recording of neuronal activity of the brain is called the EEG. Recording of skeletal muscle activity is EMG. So from the retina and the movement is called the retinography. For ocular movement, electrooculogram. So the movement of the gastrointestinal tract during the digestion, it will produce bioelectric potential, that is called the EGC. Okay, so this entirely depends upon how we measure bioelectric potentials. Okay, so coming to the first electrocardiogram, most of you know it. What is that's popularly called the ECG. What is ECG? It is a graphical recording or display or monitoring of the biopotential generated by the muscles of the heart. Okay, so it may be a display or it may be recording or it may be monitoring of the biopotentials which are generated by the heart muscles. Okay, that representation, that display is called the ECG. This many of us we are familiar with this particular the waveforms. So this is a typical ECG waveform, and these are the standards. So we have P wave, we have the QRS complex, we have Q wave, we have T wave, then we have the durations. So these are the standards of an ECG. So how ECG is developed? So generally all of you know that there is a sinoatrial node which generates on its own impulses, then it propagates to the atrial muscles, then after a delay it reaches atrioventricular node. From atrioventricular node, AV node, it transmitted through the left bundle branch, right bundle branch, through the Purkinje fibers to the ventricular musculature. Then ventricular musculatures are going to contract. So accordingly, this activities, electrical activities, the mechanical events are going to happen. So with electromechanical events, so this ECG is going to generate. So how to interpret the electromechanical events with ECG? That is very important. So when the SCA node generates impulses and propagates to the atrial musculature, under that conditions, the atria undergoes a depolarization. They contract. At the time, we will get a P wave. Then after a delay at AV node, so then it will propagate to the ventricular musculature. When the ventricular muscles undergo depolarization, when the ventricles contract, we will get a QRS complex. Then afterwards, during process of the ventricular contraction, atrial muscle undergo relaxation. That information will be hidden or lost in the QRS complex. After some time, ventricular muscles are going to relax. That represents T wave. So the P is related to the atrial contraction, QRS is for the ventricular contraction, and T wave is for the ventricular relaxation. Sir, ಒಂದು ಆನ್ಲೈನ್ ಮೀಟಿಂಗ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದೆ ಸರ್, ಆಮೇಲೆ ಮಾಡ್ತೀನಿ ಸರ್. ಓಕೆ ಸರ್, ಓಕೆ. So that is how we can able to interpret the ECG with electromechanical events of the heart. Okay. So this is how electrodes we are going to place and record. We have the suction cup electrodes, then the limb electrodes. This is the how they will be connected. This is called the 12 lead ECG system. We have disposable electrodes also we can able to utilize, right? So this is how an ECG represents that I said. When the ventricles atria contract, T wave. When the ventricles contract, QRS. When the ventricles relax, T wave. Okay, so this is a normal heartbeat. Okay, this is a normal heartbeat. You can able to see. So how one can able to utilize this ECG for diagnostic purpose? Okay, so during this period, you can see there are 6 beats. What you are able to see. Suppose during the same period, if we have more number of beats, you can see nearly 9 beats are there during this. So at the time, the heart is beating fast. Okay, it is called the tachycardia. Okay, it is called the tachycardia. It is an abnormal heartbeat, means where the heart is beating more than the average normal. The average normal is 72 beats per minute. If the under normal condition, if the heartbeat goes more than 100, so at the time we call it a condition called the tachycardia. So if you see another condition where the number of beats are lesser than the normal. So here there are 6 are there. Within this we are 4. So the heartbeat is below normal. Under normal quiet condition, if the heartbeat goes below 60 beats, at the time we call it slow heartbeat, which is called the bradycardia, which is also an abnormal situation. So like that irregular heartbeat, you can see there is a definite duration between the 2 beats, but here there is that duration is missing. So it is irregular heartbeat. Like that there are many abnormalities related to heart, which I will call the arrhythmias. So those arrhythmias can be very well diagnosed using ECG. Okay, it may be fast heart, it may be slow heart, it may be irregular heart, it may be like ventricular fibrillation, it may be atrial fibrillation. Okay, so it may be heart block, it may be heart attack, and all patients the ECG is one of the best tools. Okay, so best instrument to measure the functioning of the heart, right? So that is the advancement that happened with reference to the ECG is the one concept called the heart rate variability study. What is this HRV? So HRV is nothing but a signal which is derived by finding the time interval between the 2 heartbeats. If you find what is the time interval between the 2 heartbeats and find out RR interval, then next RR interval, and based upon that you can able to generate a signal. That particular signal is called the HRV signal, heart rate variability signal. You can able to develop the HRV signal by using ECG or blood pressure signal or pulse wave signal using PPG signal, photoplethysmograph signal. So this is you can able to generate an HRV signal using PPG signal also. Okay, so the one of the advances which are happening, one of the research area a lot of people are working is the understanding the heart rate variability. Okay, so see here, this is how an HRV signal looks like. Okay, so and this is the frequency response of the HRV signal. So this, I don't know whether you are able to see this particular signal or not. So here I have the PPG signal, and we have derived the pulse rate variability using PPG signal. So once you understand the, see, the heart rate variability signal should not be constant. In the sense, see here, if you observe this, the duration between the two R peaks is not uniform. There will be slight variation in the rhythm, which is essential to coordinate normal body activity. See, now you are listening quietly, but I am speaking. My functionality of the heart is little different from your heart. But suddenly, if you receive a mobile call, again your functionality varies. At that time, what happens? The duration of the beat to beat will not be same. So for normal functioning, it is not a horizontal line. If it indicates that horizontal line, if a HRV signal comes like in a straight horizontal line, it indicates that the heart is not the cooperating or coordinating in normal body functions. So at a variable signal like this indicates that a good the functionality of the heart. That is how the HRV will be utilized very well for understanding the heart activities. So what purpose we use HRV? So to study myocardial infarction, diabetic neuropathy, cardiac transplantation, myocardial dysfunction, tetraplegia, and also to find the stress in the human body. To exercise training, during exercise training we use HRV, and also for biofeedback we use the HRV signal. So HRV heart rate variability signal is clearly indicates the whether our heart is functioning properly or not. Okay, so to also to study under different situation like myocardial infarction and other things, HRV signal is helps the cardiologist to understand the how the deviation of the heart functionality. Okay, so that for the HRV is going to be used. Then advancement. What are the advancement which are happening in the field of the? Now we map ECG signal with CT. We take CT computer tomography signal from the CT machine. We record the ECG signal. Then we generate a combined image. Once we generate a combined image, we can able to understand how the electrical signal is propagating in the heart very clearly. That helps the doctors to find the core position of the disease, location of the disease, where there is abnormality. That can be assessed very well. Otherwise, what happens? A CT provides only the imaging information. Okay. So if you take ECG alone, it will provide the cardiac activity of the muscles. But when you combine this, you can able to locate exactly the where the wavefront of the electrical activity changing, how it is propagating, where is the dysfunction, where is the problem, that you can able to study very well by combining. These are the advancements which are happening in the field of biomedical. Then, so earlier we used to have 12 lead ECG. Now we are going for 80 lead ECG. So 80 electrodes can be mounted on the chest. Then you can record from various positions of the body surface. Then we can able to transfer the data and process. Then you can able to see how the bioelectric potentials related to the heart muscles are propagating. That information is very useful for the doctors for to diagnose the heart related problems. Okay, so these are the advancement which are happening. Then other field are the nowadays we are developing the wireless gadgets. Okay, so why every time we need to go to the clinic to record our ECG? So what you can do, we can able to have a wireless devices where you can able to transmit your ECG to your doctor's mobile. Okay, so you can see this is an ECG which is transmitted to the mobile. Then we have you have heard about Samsung Gear. Then we have Mi wristband. All of you currently we are using. Even my son use this Me wristband. So whenever he goes for the walk, he wears this and he'll comes and tell me, Papa, I have walked so many meters, so many steps like that. So this is all possible nowadays. Wearable devices are there. Okay. So only challenge here. Now these are advancements which are happening. What is the challenge in front of the engineers? So even though this is possible, but the reliability of these instruments is under question. Whether these instruments are provide a realistic data, a real-time data. Okay, suppose if you go, a patient goes to the hospital and if I record at that instant only, I will be recording that real-time data. When the patient data will be transmitted to the wireless mode to the doctor's end, and the doctor will be visualizing that whether it is going to be a realistic data and which is going to be reliable data. So those has to be developed. That reliability concept has to be developed. So how it is possible? By developing sensing mechanism, processing mechanism, then data transmission mechanism. If you are going to incorporate in a more appropriate way, in an advanced way, at that time what happens? This is possible. Okay, at that time this becomes a realistic, right? So that are the challenges are there here. Okay. Next comes electroencephalogram. Okay, so what is called as the EEG. Okay, so EEG is nothing but the graphical recording, display, and monitoring of the biopotential generated by the neuronal activity of the brain or brain cells is called the EEG. Okay, so this is a typical EEG pattern. Okay, so the neurons. So we have many thousands and millions of neurons in the brain and human body. Okay, so the activity of this is recorded from the surface of the skull. So that is results in the display. That recording is called the EEG, electroencephalogram. So this is how EEG recording takes place. We mount the electrodes, and this is the typical EEG pattern. Okay, but if you look this EEG recording with ECG, electrocardiogram. So electrocardiogram has a standard pattern. There is called some P wave, QRS complex, T wave. But if you see here, there is no standard pattern. But we can, as an engineers, we can able to generate a standard pattern and understand this particular waveforms. Okay, how it is possible? Suppose now if you look here, generally these EEG waveforms are divided into the different bands of signals. Okay, so we divide that as delta waves, which are in the frequency of 1 to 3 hertz, theta waves 4 to 8, alpha waves 9 to 14, beta waves 15 to 30, and we also call it the gamma waves, which are more than 30. Okay, so how these signals are related to the activity of the human body or human brain. Okay, so if a person is asleep or in deep sleep, at the time he will produce high amplitude, low frequency signal. And the person is relaxed, meditation, at the time he will produce, so amplitude is decreases, frequency increases. When a person is relaxed, okay, doing some creative activities, his frequency increases, further amplitude decreases. When a person is awake and alert and conscious, he produces high frequency signal. So that is how one can able to understand the nature of EEG signals and interpret these signals with the brain activity or human activity. So that you can see here again. So here a person with deep sleep, low frequency, high amplitude, asleep, so frequency is increasing, amplitude is decreasing, drowsy, further, then relaxed, excited. An excited person, you can see, produces high frequency, low amplitude signals. Okay, so based upon this, you can able to find how the human brain is functioning. Suppose a person is suffering with the sleep disorder. At the time, the EEG signal are very essential to diagnose that particular person problem with, what kind of problem he is facing. That can be very well understood by EEG recording. Okay, so then EEG can be used for brain mapping. Okay, So when we acquire the EEG from the skull, from the head region, so you can acquire and you can able to so process the data and you can able to map that data with the an imaginary image of the brain. Okay, so at that time you can see here, this is the EEG brain map of 23-year-old with attention deficit disorder. See here, attention deficit disorder. You can see here, this is the normal, but here there is a lot of activities which is not proper. So this is a one kind of the brain mapping you can able to develop. So for by which a neurologist can able to understand where is the deficiency. Then here is a person. This is a normal brain. This is a person with a depression. Okay, we can see there is a mapping which shows that there is an abnormality in the frontal lobe of the cerebrum. Okay, so that is the how one can able to understand where the problem is there. Okay, what kind of problem a neurologist can able to understand. Okay, then suppose there is a person with depression which is indicated like this. Suppose if he undergoes a treatment, after the treatment if you record, you can see here, so there is a disappearance. So this is the where you can able to before treatment and after treatment you can able to see there is change in the EEG signals. So we can able to find the improvements. Okay, so this is called the EEG based brain mapping. We can able to map the EEG signal with the brain and find out how the signal looks before treatment and how the signal looks after the treatment. What is the improvement you can able to understand using this one. Okay, so next one is this EEG is widely used in the treatment of the epilepsy. Okay, so particular epilepsy is an abnormal contraction of the muscles which happens due to the abnormal development of the electrical signals in the brain. Okay, so at that time epilepsy can be very well treated using the EEG recording. Okay, so and also Parkinson disease. So Parkinson disease can be analyzed very well using the EEG signal. Then Alzheimer's disease, where with aging, the certain neurons, okay, so are going to die in the human brain. So due to which the information will be lost. So that can be very well diagnosed and understood using EEG recording, which can also be mapped with certain CT and MRI. Then this is also the interpretation of the various activities with human brain. So you see here, this is the activities indicating looking. At that time, you can see the visual cortex. The visual cortex is active. Then listening, the auditory cortex is active. Thinking, the frontal part is active. Remembering, like working, so like that you can see. So by recording EEG, one can able to understand the functioning of the brain very properly, and you can able to map this signal with the brain and try to understand under normal condition how the brain is functioning, under the abnormal condition what is the deficiency in the brain and which part of the brain is not functioning. That you can able to very well study use the EEG recording. So what are the advancements which are happening? So generally what happens, if we go back just here, you can see this particular small girl, so which is mounted with EEG electrodes, and there are a lot of inconvenience which happens for the subject or the patient. To overcome this, now what we are doing is we are developing a wireless EEG systems. See here, we have mounted electrodes. We have the processing system which are there either in the headband or in the cap, which transmit EEG signals wirelessly to the device, where it can be displayed, recorded, monitored. Okay, that is the advancement which are happening. But so what are the challenges here? So when you do go for the wireless system, at the time, the devices which you are using to developing the wireless has to be miniaturized, has to have a good battery backup, has to have a good transceiver for wireless transmission of the data. So those And once you do that, the data should be reliable. To make it this, so we need to develop this wireless technology. So more reliable, we need to make it more reliable. Okay, that are the challenges are there. Okay, next comes electromyogram. I have another 15 minutes to complete. I go a little quickly. So whatever possible I try to cover, I'll try my best to cover. Okay. So electromyogram, it is the bioelectric potentials associated with the skeletal muscle activity constitute electromyogram. So whenever the skeletal muscles contract and relax at the time, so due to the mechanical activity, electromechanical activity, biopotentials are generated. When you record this biopotential from the surface, from the of the human body, so at the time it is going to call the surface EMG, or you can able to record by inserting a needle into the muscles. They are going to call the needle EMG. Okay, so this is how the contraction of the muscles take place. There will be thick filaments and thin filaments. They slide over each other. When they slide over each other, when the neuron stimulates the muscles, muscles undergo contraction. When the muscles undergo contraction, suppose if I come back here, so when the muscle undergo contraction, due to this one, biopotentials are generated. They propagate to the surface. So if you record from the surface, that recording is called the EMG. That is, you can see here, you can mount the electrodes onto the surface of the human body and use an EMG amplifier, and you can able to display. That display is going to call the EMG. So you can see here, when you gripping or grasping, doing some the activity, you can generate a signal which will propagate to the surface of the body. That recording is displayed as a electromyogram. Okay, right. So then question comes, what purpose this EMG? Particularly the EMG is what are widely used for rehabilitation process. So for example, so suppose there is a paralytic person. Okay, some person has the lower limb disability. To find out which muscles are active, which muscles are inactive, at the time by mounting the electrodes at appropriate locations, we can able to acquire. So which particular muscle is active, which particular muscle is inactive, for which type of movement, which muscle is responsible. So because there is various movements which are possible in the limbs. So all the muscles will not be responsible for all movements. There will be specific muscles responsible for the specific movements. So at that time, by mounting the electrodes at appropriate location and acquiring the EMG and processing and understanding and analyzing this EMG, we can able to understand. So which part of the limb has a disability, or which muscle is inactive, or which muscle is active, by which we can able to, the muscles which are inactive, which are not functioning properly, by appropriate physiotherapy at that location, what we can do, we can strengthen or we can able to improve those particular activity, or at least so we can able to overcome the deterioration phase. Suppose if the muscle is deteriorating, by appropriate analysis we can able to maintain that particular steady state condition. Okay, for that purpose EMG is very essential. Another is for the biomedical signal processing. Okay, so what happens generally when we acquire these signals, the signals are contains a lot of noise. So we cannot able to analyze the signals under raw condition. We need to process these particular signals. There is a lot of opportunity exists for the researcher in the biomedical signal processing. If you look here, this is an ECG signal. You can see there is a lot of noise is present here. When you acquire this signal and store this signal, you can do some filtering process. We call it digital filtering or averaging techniques. Okay, so by doing this, what you can see here, after filtering or after averaging technique, what you can see, you can able to remove this noise. Okay, so then what happens? This signal carries very useful information, so that the data, when you will analyze after processing, will provide the correct information. If a signal with lot of noise, may give erroneous results. At the time, the analysis of the signal in time and frequency domain, extracting significant information from the biomedical signal is also part of biomedical signal. So time domain parameters, frequency domain parameters. Nowadays we have wavelet domain analysis, where we analyze the signal both in time and frequency domain. Okay, so that is another area which is called the biomedical signal processing. Okay, so what generally biomedical signal processing includes? It first includes signal acquisition. Okay, transducer, amplifier, filtering, A to D conversion, then signal processing, removing the noise, then detecting an event, then signal analysis, okay, feature extraction, then developing a pattern recognition that will be useful for the diagnostic. So this signal processing is widely used in the ECG analysis, EMG analysis, EEG analysis, and also particularly in the speech analysis. Okay, in speech signal processing. So we use the signal processing. Particularly now I am speaking to you, okay, through internet, through the wireless medium. Okay, and it is reaching you. You are sitting at the different places in the Karnataka or in India. Okay, so my speech may be very clear to you. So sometimes there may be noise. So after some time that noise will be clear. At the time what happens? There will be a signal processing tool embedded in my hardware or software which overcomes this particular noise and provides my speech without noise to you. Okay, this is another area where there are a lot of challenges. Nowadays also we face a lot of difficulties when we do online classes. There is a lot of noise we'll encounter. So there is a lot of challenges are there in the signal processing also, where we can able to overcome these difficulties in overcome the noise and provide useful signal for the receivers. Okay, that is the thing. So another field of area is called the biomechanics, biodynamics, and sports mechanics. So biomechanics deals with motion of bodies in the frame of reference. How a motion takes place, how the movement takes place, that is biomechanics. So biodynamics, the forces which causes the motion, that's called the biodynamics. Another area which is extended based upon the biomechanics, biodynamics, called the sports biomechanics. So it is a quantitative based study to analysis of the professional athletes and the sports activities in general. So the sports biomechanics helps to improve the performance of the athletes and the sportsmen. Okay, that is the sports. Then, so particularly when you are lifting, so when you are doing some physical activity, which particular the muscles are active, what are the forces which are developed, all that comes under the biomechanics and the biodynamics. Okay, so particularly when a person is walking or running, we can see so what kind of signals are developed. So that is the strength of muscles, the movements, all this will be recorded. That is the biomechanics field. Okay, so another one is the particularly force platform, which is going to record what is the forces on your the plantar surface of the foot. Okay, so and when you're doing some physical activity, so how the movements are possible? You can see this is the physical activity. Okay, so when you're doing some this game, so this is squash. So how the movements are happens? Okay, so when you bowling, when you're doing a basketballing, so how the movements are taking place? What are the forces are going to happen? All this study happens in the field of biomechanics and sports mechanics. Okay, so this will help so to improve the performance of the athletes. Okay, that is the another field. Another field of area is called the gait analysis. That is the way the locomotions we are going to achieve. Okay, so that is called the gait analysis that we do in the field of biomechanics. So then gait pressure mat. So this is when a person walks on a pressure mat, what pressure is created? What is the pressure on the plantar surface of your foot? We can able to study, we can able to understand. So this information is useful particularly to treat diabetic footwears. Okay, to design the what happens in the diabetic neuropathy. So the sometimes the patients, the persons will develop ulcers, which develop in the form of a gangrene. Sometimes you need to go for amputation. To reduce this the pressures, we can develop a diabetic footwears. So this is the advancement which are happening specific to the person. Okay, so if you reduce the pressures in the plantar surface of the foot, so we can able to overcome the ulcers. Okay, we can able to overcome the infection, by which step by step the this person can able to get the sensation back by developing the proper the footwears. Okay, that is another advancement which are happening in the field. Okay, so there are a lot of things which are there. Now I just run the slides. So another fields are for the biomaterials, artificial organs, where you can develop the organs such as prosthetics, orthotics. Then medical imaging, CT, nowadays we call it digital radiograph. Okay, then CT machines, MRI machines, which are happening in the field of biomedical engineering. Now we talk about the functional MRI. What is this functional MRI? This is the advancement which are happening. So along with the image, we also find out the functional activity in the MRI. So the auditory function, visual function, somatosensory function, speech function, finger tapping, listening. So this is called the functional MRI. Then breast imaging, mammography, angiography to find the blockage in the arteries, echocardiography to find the activity in the heart, then the ultrasonography to find the field development in the uterus, in the mother's womb. Okay, so these are taking place. 3D visualization. So actually CT MRI provides 2D slices, but you can able to put them together to develop a 3D visualization. By developing 3D, exact location of the tumor, exact location of the abnormality you can able to develop. There are a lot of challenges in 3D visualization. So we can able to improve the 3D visualization by taking research in the digital image processing. Okay, that is another field is called as the image fusion technique, where we have CT. Here you can club CT with MRI images. So CT provides better information of the hard tissue. MRI provides better information of the soft tissue. When you club together, we'll get a still better information. Another is called the positron emission tomography, PET. The PET is another imaging modality which provides the functionalities of the human body parts. But the PET will not provide a better structural information. When you combine CT with PET, you will get structural information as well as the functional information. So that is possible in the image fusion techniques. Okay, so there is a lot of the challenges and opportunities for the engineers to work in the image fusion. Okay, then medical thermography based upon the body heat, we can develop the images. This is also, but we need to develop the technology which can be used for the diagnostic purpose. Then rehabilitation engineering, to developing the rehabilitation tools and techniques, the wheelchair design, prosthetic limbs, orthotic limbs. Okay. Then another field is called the bionics, where the artificial organs work like natural organs. That is what is called the bionics. Okay, so these are for the bionic arms, bionic limbs. So there the working of this are similar or as good as the normal arms and the normal limbs. That is for the bionic. A lot of work is going on. So this is, see here, these are the bionic arms. They function like a natural arms. Okay, bionic limbs, lower limbs. Okay, which can be utilized for all kind of natural activity. Okay, normal activities. And wheelchair designs. Okay, so varieties are happening in this one. Then telemedicine, biometrics, bioinformatics, transmission of the useful physiological data over a distance. Then biometrics, fingerprint identification, iris recognition, face recognition, speech recognition. These are all part of the biometrics. Okay, so these are also still a lot of the frauds are happening. Okay, particularly cyber crimes are increasing. Even though we have come with a lot of things, but still there are a lot of challenges for the engineers to develop very foolproof the data and foolproof transactions. Okay, there is a lot of challenges. Okay, so, and what are the other challenges? I'll conclude in just in 2 minutes. Then I can take one or two questions. So what are the new challenges there for the engineers and the medicos? Okay, so to bring all diagnostic procedures and therapies to non-invasive or minimally invasive procedure. So what happens, some certain diagnostic procedures or certain therapeutic procedures are still invasive in nature. We need to damage the skin, then only we need to perform the procedure. So is it possible to make these procedures completely non-invasive or at least minimally invasive? That is one challenge. Okay. So second is delivering drugs and other large molecules to targeted sites inside the human body. So delivery of drugs. Now what happens? You take the medicines, medication either through the intravenously or through orally, through the capsules or the tablets. So sometimes what happens? These drugs, these medicines are not specific. Sometimes you might have heard there are some side effects. Why this side effect is occurs? Because they are not targeted to only one side. Okay, so while curing one tissue, it may affect another tissue, due to which there will be some side effects. So another challenges are drug delivery is the greatest challenger. Growing new tissue from the neuronal stem cells, regeneration and neural tissue. This is what a previous speaker might have discussed, that is genetic engineering, bioinformatics. So where you can able to develop new tissues. Suppose if there is a tissue has been damaged, at the time what happens, you need to regenerate that particular tissue by preserving stem cells. Okay, then another area is geriatric care, so elderly care. So the nowadays, if you just take a statistics of COVID-19 fatalities, as all of you are aware that majority of the people who are suffering are the above 60 years, above 70 years, who have some or one or the other problem like the blood pressure or sugar, diabetes and others related. Okay, so we need to extend the facilities for the elderly people. Okay, that is another greatest challenge. And uncover the entire sequence of genetic code of humans to diagnose and predict diseases and develop new and effective means of combating them. So if you uncover the genetic code and find out how genes are get manipulated under normal condition and the abnormal condition, at the time you can undiscover and find out the root cause of the problems, by which a better solutions can be found out. And more importantly, with reference to the India, what you require is accurate, precise, sensitive and cost-effective technology required. Right. So there are a lot of instruments we have in the field of medicine. Okay, but most of the instruments are imported from the outside the India. So they are very costly. When those instruments are used for patient caring, naturally the cost of treatment. Okay, so at that time, so the affording that treatment becomes a questionable from the patient point of view, right? Under that conditions, so what is the another greatest challenge for the engineers and technocrats and the medical people is to come out with the techniques, technology and procedures which are very accurate and very precise, sensitive and the cost effective also. Okay, so these are the various challenges are there in front of the engineers and the medicos. Those are the things which we need to address. So with this, I am concluding my talk. So this is where the place of my working, the UVTT College of Engineering, which is the main building administrative building. Currently, I am sitting here and giving my talk. Exactly here, I am here in this. You are seeing this window now. Inside this room, I am here. I am delivering the talk from sitting here. This is the main entrance of our institute. If opportunity comes when the COVID-19 pandemic gets over, visit our institute. One of the premier institute, one of the oldest engineering college in the state of Karnataka, started in the year 1951. Okay, so and we have more than 90% of our faculty members are PhD holders. A lot of research is going on in our institute in many fields of engineering and technology. Okay, so with this, I thank the organizers for giving me an opportunity to share my knowledge in the field of biomedical engineering. Okay, I stop here my presentation. So if at all any questions are there, I am ready to take the questions at this particular moment. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Holly sir, thank you sir for giving the presentation, very comprehensive one. And we have two questions through the chat.
I am able to see that.
Yes sir,
Just
Dr.
like
Sukanti Bhattacharya sir.
plans.
First question. Are all these devices having digitally achievable data storage and retrieval systems?
Yeah, with reference to the current technology, most of the devices what we are developing now are making digital in nature, and we try to develop the technology where the data is necessarily to be stored, because in most of the situations we want the history of the patient, means what happened during the process of either treatment or before the treatment. Okay, so the most of the gadgets or the devices nowadays comes with a data storage, and also we can able to retrieve them. Okay, just if I give an example of the MI wristband. Okay, so MI wristband you are going to wear during morning walking hours. So at that time that the band which has a memory, a minimum memory, it records. Okay, so some of the bands have the larger data storage, some of them have the smaller data storage. Okay, so once you come back to your home, you can able to retrieve how many steps you have walked and all those things. So that is very essential. Okay, so we must and should store this particular data and also have a retrieval mechanism. Okay, so that is one of the challenge also nowadays, how large quantity of the data you can store. That is what I discussed during wireless body area network. So we can able to implant the sensors on the human body, which can able to acquire the physiological signal, physiological parameter, process it and transmit it. So during this processing and transmitting, so what happens? So the storage is one of the challenge. At that time, we need to develop an appropriate the compression, data compression techniques by which the data can be minimized and stored, large data can be stored. And when you transmit that, other side you can able to recover that data with same information without loss of any information. Okay, so that is about I felt that I have answered that. Wearable electronic sensors, will it causes metabolic adverse side effects? So that is only the another challenge here is that when I discuss, we are coming out with this is an interdisciplinary area. So where we develop the sensors which are biocompatible, in the sense the materials we need to use to implanting or mounting on the human body should be biocompatible in nature. Means it should not, whatever the material we are going to use, whether onto the surface of the body or within the body, so they should not react with the body fluids. So when they do not react with the body fluids, such the materials are going to be called the biocompatible biomaterials. So there is a lot of the scope and opportunity to do the research related to the biomaterials. Okay, particularly if I give an example, when you go for implanting a knee joint replacement. So nowadays you might have heard. So when the people are affected with arthritis, osteoarthritis, so when the articular cartilage is going to fail, so at that time the final remedy is to go for knee joint replacement. At that time, complete knee will be replaced with artificial knee. At that time, what happens? So nowadays, the technology is developed that those the artificial knee joint materials are the biocompatible in nature, and also so we made those biomaterials are lightweight, so that the after the implantation, the patient do not feel that this is something and not a normal device. Okay, he feels that the implant is as good as normal. Okay, so such the developments are happening. So which are another field of areas for the biomaterials. So ultimately, so we have achieved that goals. But still improvements can be done, particularly making them lightweight, particularly when you go for implantation, particularly prosthetic and orthopedic devices. Okay, particularly joint replacements. Okay, so prosthetic limb, orthopedic limbs. At that time, what happens if the artificial limb becomes heavy, it becomes a burden for the person. He may not be able to do normal activity. Nowadays, we have developed sophisticated the biomaterials which are work as good as a normal, and they are light in weight. So such the possibilities are there, and a lot of the challenges are there, and to a certain extent we are able to provide the appropriate solution for the implantation of the wearable devices. Okay.
Sir, one more question, sir. Whether the ECG done by two different person by two different equipments will change or not?
Means suppose that is only as I said in my last slide. So the instruments what you are going to develop, or the technique what you are going to develop, should be accurate and precise. In the sense, whether an ECG machine used for me or some other person, it should display or record his heart activity, in the sense that, so suppose if my ECG recording happens in two different ECG machines, so means I undergo ECG recording in two different machines, and assuming that my heart activity is normal, at the time the ECG recording in both machines should be same. There should not be any difference in the ECG recording. Okay, so like that, so at the time the accuracy of that instrument, the precision of the instrument is going to play important role. That depends upon the many factors like the position of the electrodes, the type of the electrodes, sensitivity of the electrodes, then the design of the electrode machine, and the recording procedure adopted. All these are going to matters. That's why many of us, we know that there is a wide variety of ECG machines are available. You will get an ECG machine with a 15 to 20,000 rupees also. There are certain ECG machines which cost you around 75 to 1 lakh rupees also. Okay, so based upon the accuracy and the precision, the data recording and data display is going to depend. But as far as this question is considered, a person undergoing the ECG recording in two different machines, if you assume that both machines are of standard, the ECG should be same, unless until my activity is going to differ. Right? Hope I able to answer. How safe are wearable electronic devices on human bodies with respect to water resistance mechanism and short circuit problems? So that is only once you made the wearable devices the biocompatible, at the time they will not cause any harm. There will not be any kind of short circuit issues. There will be completely insulation will be provided, appropriate isolation will be provided for them, so that there will not be any short circuit issues, and they will be compatible with the body fluids. Okay, so their resistance for any kind of corrosiveness, any body fluids. Okay, that kind of technology is already developed nowadays. Okay, and some cases we use the what we call the replaceable kind of electrodes. Okay, so where use ECG just for recording, just throw it. Okay, so such kind of technology can also be adopted. Okay.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir, for your valuable information regarding the queries asked by the participants. And a few participants have asked for the PPT, sir, because they missed out the session during the session due to some network issues.
Okay. Yeah, I'll share my PPT with organizing committee members. I thank again the organizing committee members, the coordinators, and all the participants for your kind cooperation and coordination in delivering my time. Thank you one and all.
May I have some questions?
Thank you, sir.
Hello.
Yes, sir. Kumar, sir.
Hello, sir. Mallikarjun, sir.
Tell me, sir. Tell me.
Sir, the biggest problem in the biomedical instrumentation is the how accurate my sensors are. So
Yes.
specifically the sensors, if it is not able to pick up very weak biopotentials, obviously no matter how sophisticated computer system you have, it will
Yes.
tend to fail. So in this regard, so particularly motion artifacts and the artifacts due to the high voltage electrical interferences. So how is that, you can have devise better sensors, be it
Yeah.
EEG, ECG or EMG?
Yeah. So that is only, sir, there are real challenges with reference to the sensing mechanism. As I have discussed, nowadays slowly we are moving from ordinary sensor to the intelligent sensors or the smart
Okay.
sensors. So where the instrument not only acquire the physiological signal, and also that smart sensor also have a processing in it. So that will analyze the signal, whether that signal is going to be of appropriate nature in its characteristics and characteristics. So based upon that, it will also process. And if at all a signal it found to be corroded with the some kind of noise, it will implement some kind of signal processing also, and removes that kind of noisy features, and provide the signal which is free from noise. So that's why the sensor technology we are upgrading from normal sensing mechanism to the smart sensing or intelligent sensing, where we have the sensors also sensitive for even very low amplitude biomedical signals such as EEG, which are in terms of microvolts. Okay, yeah. So and by developing smart sensing technologies, the issues related to the acquisition and data processing and data transmission can be solved. That is, I completely agree with your question, sir. Unless until we solve the problem at the sensing technology, even though other end we have the sophisticated technology, we may not able to get the appropriate data. Okay, so at the acquisition point, we have the appropriate technology need to be developed.
Yeah, correct. Okay, sir. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Thank you once again, sir. There are no more questions.
Okay. Thank you. Then, so thank you one and all. So I can leave now.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks. Dear participants, the afternoon session will begin at 2:30 p.m. Session by Dr. Bharat BR. So topic is on CAD from industrial perspective. Thank you.